Yeah, now that, like with dad life and everything, like Kenzie and I used to travel quite a bit internationally too. So that's something I would have been very, you know, in tune with. But it's like it didn't even cross my mind to, yeah, you
Yeah,
need documentation to travel outside of the country.
yeah, exactly. Like when your passport expires 3 days ago, it's like, I better get that redone because we're about to. There it is,
Yeah, baby.
beauty. She's a beauty. Yeah, as I was telling you, like when I went to Spartan Wheel Championships in 2024, Morzine, France, and I was about 3 weeks out, and I'm like, okay, let's take all the rules. And then I got an email, probably got an email prior to that too. There's like, make sure you have 6 months left on your passport. And I'm just like, that's a weird rule, like
Yeah,
because it
six
doesn't even
months.
expire. I'm only going to be there for 5 days, and they're
Why
like,
even have
nope.
an expiration date?
I honestly don't know. And then I was just like, Europe. I was just
For
like,
sure.
but
Yeah,
then
that sounds
I
like that
then
sounds
I
like a
looked.
European rule.
Well, then I looked, and it's like everywhere. They're like, you need to have 6 months left. I'm like, man, I can only stay 90 days on a visa. Like, even if I had, like,
Right.
I was just like, what is this? So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really weird rule. To anybody that's watching this right now, and missed the front. Eric's passport expired, so he's being part of my crew to go to the Norseman Triathlon on the 1st of August. We're leaving in July, so he's gonna get that taken care of. That
That
way,
would have
we don't
been
run into
difficult.
any problems.
I would have
That
had
would
to
have.
swim there.
Yeah, I mean, you could swim there, but then you're in the country illegally, and guess what? They would have sent you back.
That's true. And they're
Yeah,
Vikings, so I wouldn't want to
yeah.
deal with them
I,
face to face.
they're big and strong, and they're it's cold, so like they're always angry.
I
But they're
know.
some of the nicest people. They can just go to another level that's just like, ooh, okay.
And if
It's
we're
like
if
you
we
were
want to
bred for
get
this.
if we want to get to nutrition, they've got a berry that grows up there, the lingonberry, very
The
healthy.
Lincoln. Is it really?
The lingonberry, very
Should we
healthy.
make
It's
a
like a sweeter.
lingonberry smoothie?
Well, it's tart. It's like a cranberry. It's like sweeter than a
I
cranberry,
know
but
you
it's
love
still very
cranberries. We
cranberry.
haven't even touched the cranberry juice yet.
I
So
know.
I actually picked some up. It's in my fridge. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Ha-
We got to drink those carbs, baby.
See, now that is drinking Wisconsinably. Some cranberry juice, right? It's good for the health, opposed to a
100%.
copious amount of alcohol.
Hey, luckily I dodged that bullet. What's crazy is like, so we're gonna add it to the list. We're gonna have a lingonberry smoothie after the race because we're not gonna mess with it before the race because we have
Yes.
our stuff dialed in. We don't
Yes.
mess with stuff if it's dialed in. We leave that until after. Deal?
Exactly. And I'm very
Yeah.
excited to get things dialed in. But I think that's a good segue to jump into our nutrition talks.
Coaching session
So,
number 3.
yeah, baby. So first things first, how much of the content in the online course were you able to get through?
Yep. So I think I'm up to the hydration factor,
Excellent.
which I'm actually really excited. I do have to go, like, I'm up to that one, so I have to go through it. Um, there's it feels like I'm in college again. Lots to learn, which is freaking awesome because, as we discussed in the last couple, is the way that you coach is that you educate. That way, we don't have to start from square one over and over and over again, which I love. It's just different for me. A lot of coaches that I've worked with, they've just given me, here's your protein, fats, and carbs, eat from this list of foods, and off we go. So I absolutely love it. I'm digging into it. I'm re-listening to your videos over and over again, just so that I can grasp it. I'm both a visual and a volume or a listener learning. So just
Right.
the repetition, it really helps out. So yeah, up until hydration, I'm excited. We'll save that for next call. Maybe touch it a little bit, but hydration's a big one that I've noticed I need to work on. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm sure we'll touch on it a little bit, but to dig through the content that you gave me. Now, when we're gonna go back through, what I did get through, I set my calorie goal, and then I went through the equation, and I got some of the percentages, the high and the low, and I do have to adjust for that 50 to 55% rule for like the carbs and stuff like that. I just did the high and the low. I did the 0.65 and the 0.45 multiplication factor, so I got a high and a low end. And I did that with proteins, fats, and carbs. But I did want to talk to you a little bit. So when I went through the Mifflin-St. Jean equation, which is to calculate, my macros, proteins, fats, and carbs.
Just for clarification for listeners, so that is calculating your basal metabolic rate, meaning the calories you need just to exist at rest.
Yes.
That's right. That's why I'm here, baby.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. Because we've chatted, like I've always looked at things as proteins, fats, and carbs. Like that's it.
Yep.
And it's much different to dig into like, hey, this is what we are calculating specifically for this reason to make adjustments off of it. When I originally did it, I did the high level of exercise output, the multiplier. I think it's like 1.72 or is it 1.75?
No, it should be higher. If you go to the very heavy exercise, it should
that was
be
very
1.9.
Heavy. Yeah, 1.9. Yes, but so when I did that kind of stuff, to me it just seemed extremely high, and we didn't do a little check-in. I meant to text you this morning. I'm at 205.7, so I'm actually up a pound.
Okay.
And I have not been hitting those high ends. So I did my calculations, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that, but I dropped down to moderate to do my calculations. And I don't know if that's my eating disorder in me, or I'm dead serious. Like, because a lot of that, like eating that high number is intimidating.
I laugh because it's it brings up such a good point that's going to be really good for listeners to hear. So if you don't mind me interrupting you quick,
go ahead.
Carry on. So there's a lot going on here. Okay. First thing that we need to be aware of is any predictive equation, whether we're using the Mifflin-St. Jean equation, the Cunningham equation, whatever. It is just to give us a starting point, right? It's not going to be perfect. I mean, if we think about how complex the human body is and how many variables are in every single day, there's no way an algorithm mathematically can tell us how many calories we need, right? I mean, just think about how many steps you take one day compared to the next. It's not exactly the same, right? You don't breathe the same amount of times. You don't twitch the same amount of times. So there's all of these variables that make it really challenging to get an exact number. So that's point one, is that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a starting point. Point two is you yourself are a trained athlete, right? Your body over the past however many years you've been training the way you've been training has adapted a lot, meaning you are more efficient metabolically, right? Your body takes protein and uses it for muscle repair and other purposes related to performance and recovery better and more efficiently than somebody that is untrained. Same thing with carbohydrates and fat. Your body is primed to use these macronutrients differently. So that makes determining maintenance calories a little bit more challenging and makes it so that these equations aren't always the best indicators of what we should actually be eating. And then three is that, you take both of those things considered. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought, truthfully.
No, it's actually, can I step in there? Because like, it's really funny that you say that, because I was just joking with my friend Caleb. We've been working out together for about 3 years now, and he just falls off a cliff. Like if he's not fueled, he has that sugar crash, like just crashes like halfway through a workout. And I always joke with him, and I was actually just joking with him yesterday. I was just like, thank God I was bulimic, because when I've been doing ultra stuff since 2015. It was my first World Championship Ultra Spartan. It was in Lake Tahoe, and like then all the other runs and things like that. And I joke about that, because I'm in a spot to be able to joke about being bulimic. And hey, folks, get help if you need help. Trust me, reach out. It makes a world of difference. Talk to somebody. Now that I've said that, we are not doctors. Seek out a health professional. I was joking because I told him, I'm like, dude, I trained my body to do more with less. I trained my body for so many years. I was bulimic for 4 years, that like, this is what we got. This is the workout we are doing. It doesn't matter. You do it anyways. And my engine's really good, and I've trained my body to do more with less. But from what it sounds like is it makes it a lot more difficult to zero things in.
Yeah, without a doubt. And really quick, because I remembered my third point, is similar to the first point I made about you specifically, or sorry, the second point I made about you specifically and your trained status, is that your body fat percentage and your amount of lean mass makes it so, especially the Mifflin-St. Jean equation, is a little less accurate, because you have to understand that that algorithm itself was derived from data primarily collected from the general population, somebody that doesn't have a physique such as yours. That's why the Cunningham, which uses lean mass opposed to body weight, is going to be a little bit more accurate. And that's something we can mess around with. So if you feel confident in your lean mass number that you have, we can try the Cunningham equation, and you can just report back to me and see what it says. Now that in particular, okay, is also just going to give you your resting metabolic rate. The activity factor, that 1.7 that you're referring to, and I said 1.9, that is very subjective, and that still needs to be applied to the Cunningham. But I guess that brings up a fourth point as to where things could possibly be inaccurate. So for you, right, if we look at these subjectives, and I pulled it up just so we could talk about it. So the activity factors are as follows. Sedentary, 1.2. And for listeners, this activity factor is essentially a coefficient that you will multiply your BMR by. So your BMR is the calories your body needs just to simply exist. We then multiply that by an activity factor to account for our activity throughout the day. So the descriptions are very generic, right? So sedentary, activity factor of 1.2, little or no exercise, desk job. Light activity, 1.375, light exercise and sports 1 to 3 days a week. Moderate activity, 1.55, moderate exercise, sports 3 to 5 days a week. Very active, 1.725, hard exercise, sports 6 to 7 days a week. Extra active, 1.9, very hard exercise, sports and physical job, or 2 times of training per day. So that's why I said 1.9 for you, 2 times the training per day. Now, brings me to my point, which is, what does that mean, right? Extra active to me is probably different than extra active to you. For example, I'm working with an elite runner right now, and she is going to be trying to accumulate 90 plus miles a week of running. Right? And that's going to be active. But like, to me, that would be like extremely active. Like, to
I
me,
trained for
I'd be
7 marathons and I did not hit 90.
Yeah, I mean, she is
miles a week.
She's an absolute beast. She's an absolute beast. But like, so we have to take that into consideration, that this is, very subjective. And because it's a coefficient, right? So if we think back to like basic algebra, we're taking a number and we're multiplying it by a big number. Your BMR is a big number, right? It's in the thousands. It's probably, like 13, 14, 1500. Okay. So anything we multiply that by, it's going to have a big impact. So if you're off in your assessment of your activity, right, it's going to give you a caloric value as an output that there's definitely a margin of error in. So again, we really have to go into this with the expectation that, this is going to be just an idea. It's just to give us a target to aim for, so that we can then compare that to maybe food we've been tracking and see, am I gaining weight? Am I maintaining weight? Am I losing weight? And then we can adjust the number as necessary. So instead of just saying like, you know what, Sully, based on your activity and your body weight, like, let's just go for 3,000, right? And maybe that's not far off, but this way it at least gives us a more scientific approach to finding a starting point, instead of me just, throwing a dart at the wall and seeing where it hits on a number. But it's a good point, because it's so many people get frustrated, if somebody tells them like, here, I want you to shoot for this calorie value, or they do the math themselves like you just did, and it's not panning out. They're like, well, it's supposed to be this. It's supposed to be this calories. And like, I'm eating that calories, or I'm eating slightly less and I'm still gaining weight, or this and that. It's like, there are so many factors at play that we can't take it as fact and with certainty, right? It's just a best guess.
Yeah. And when I was going through it, right, I think I've been averaging 3,200-ish, because I was trying to hit that carb goal you sent for me. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Yes. We're going to have to work on that.
Well, what we can do too, really quick, I'm going to let you continue, but what we can do when we can do it live on the call is, instead of doing the breakdown of, instead of like using an equation to determine your calories, okay, your BMR and all of that, and then using splits like, oh, we're going to do 50% total calories we're going to do 35% total calories, protein, blah, blah, blah. We'll do just weight-based recommendations. We'll do your carbs, we'll do your protein, we'll do your fat, and we'll just see where that gets us calorically. How does that sound?
Okay. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
So you said about 3,200 using the carb recommendation.
Yeah, and obviously I gained a pound about, and who knows, that could be water weight. It could be the time that I measured this, that, or the other, right? Like there's so, especially with about a pound, right?
For your body size, about 5 pounds. I wouldn't even sweat. Like,
so I'm not exactly worried about like the number on the scale. I go off of how I feel. But when I was looking at it is, in the lesson that you provided, it was just like, okay, cool. Like this is what the definition is for moderate. This is what the definition is for active and extremely active. And when you were explaining that, like, hey, somebody that can hit like a really, really hard CrossFit workout or a really hard interval workout in the morning and then sit at a desk and then hit another one at night, but is still going to be less calorie expenditure than somebody that was in the construction realm, right? But that's kind of like how my days have been going. I do coaching online. I do this, that, and the other. So normally I hit a walk in the morning. I hit either my long cardio session in the morning or in like an interval weight session, metabolic conditioning. I know Hunter hates that, but metabolic conditioning, if from the CrossFit realm, a lot of circuits, a lot of intervals, every minute on the minute, AMRAPs, things like that. So like those are interchangeable. So I'm having 2 really hard sessions, but in between it's very, very chill. So that's where I was kind of going more towards the moderate, especially after reading through the lesson. Am I on the right track with that? Or because my workouts are so much, do you think that's still a little bit low? What are your thoughts on that?
I would still put your activity factor. So first thing I would do is we can switch you to the Cunningham equation to maybe get a better assessment of your RMR, BMR, right? Maybe the Mifflin St. Jeor, because your body fat's so low, your lean mass is so high, Mifflin St. Jeor probably isn't the best representative equation to use. So we can try the Cunningham, which may give us a different BMR and RMR. And then I would still use the high activity factor. Again, 1 pound is like, it doesn't even cross my radar as a blip. Nothing I'm even paying attention to until we hit, again, for your size, around 5 pounds. More importantly, I want to know, and we'll get into it, is how you've been feeling. So, this is a new carbohydrate target for you. So I want to know how that's been feeling, how it's been going, digesting, so on and so forth, energy levels in the gym. But we'll get there. So yes, because you're exercising, like your 2 exercises a day aren't nothing. Like they're typically pretty substantial. And even though you are a trained athlete, it's still a lot on your body, despite the downtime in between. And I really want to make sure, especially if you're going to be putting that time and energy in, that you're leaving nothing on the table. Okay. Now, if let's say 2 weeks from now, your weight goes up another pound, another pound, another pound, and it's trending up continuously, then it's like, okay, now we know, but we still have plenty of time to drop that. We have to understand that water weight, and that's why I say somebody of your size, right, 5 pounds is less concerning, because water weight is a real thing. And we know that as we increase carbohydrate consumption, ideally, we're maxing out our glycogen stores. Well, glycogen holds water. So that's why somebody in like the combat sports realm, right, if they're doing a weight cut, one strategy is to deplete their glycogen because all of that water weight goes with it. So it could, I'm not saying it is, but it could be that now that you've increased your carbohydrates, maybe you have more glycogen than you did before. Maybe that's holding on to that extra pound of water. Time will tell, right? And it's really going to be determining, or really what I'm going to want to see is, okay, now that we've increased carbohydrates, is it making a difference? Are you noticing the performance improvements from where you were previously? We'll know for sure at higher intensities. One thing we could do, and I'm not saying you and me are going to do this, but one thing we could do is we could have done a VO2 max test in the beginning. And then after, let's say several months of this increased carbohydrate intake plus your training, did we increase your VO2 max, right? Because really where those carbohydrates went out big time is that high intensity stuff, right? Because that is going to be using that anaerobic metabolism where oxygen is not present, meaning carbohydrates are going to be the substrate used to give your body the ATP to push. So that was a long-winded explanation. How have you been feeling?
I can tell you what, if I don't eat in the morning, specifically a simple digesting carb that like gets me going about 50 grams, I can feel it. Like I have no energy when I get into the weight room. I have no zip. And it gets to the point to where like even my stomach's just like, hey dude, you should probably eat something. I've felt that, over the weekend, Monday, Tuesday. Yesterday was pretty bad. That's we talked about chocolate covered strawberries a lot yesterday or last time, but like yesterday I didn't eat breakfast, and I've been really good on fueling, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I was just like, we need to eat breakfast. We need a simple carb, little bit of protein, not too much, and just get going. And was feeling great for my morning workouts. Yesterday I went fasted, had a crap workout, spent an hour on the bike, and then was just like, luckily it was just sustained cardio, and I went straight to the store, and I'm just like, chocolate covered strawberries wasn't the best for recovery because of the high fat intake, but I was just like, I needed something now. And we've talked about ignition in the past, in our last call, to get me those extra carbs. I hit right after my workout, I hit 1 scoop of protein, full scoop of ignition, and my body was still like, you need something more. So definitely feel it in the morning session. In the afternoon session, I haven't missed fueling for a workout. I have a really good solid lunch, normally with, solid rice, something like that. And then about an hour before training, I have 2 of those honey stinger waffles. And so that's about 40 grams of carbs, give or take. And I feel good using those. They're not heavy on the stomach and able to get through my training session. And I don't feel famished like I did when I missed my morning meal.
Good. That's good to know. It's good to know that you've got, a comparison. You've got a comparison as in you have a, testimony to what it's like to train fully fueled. And then you've got testimony in the same week on how it feels to train unfueled. And you can make
nothing in the tank.
Right.
Nothing.
And you can make that connection. Imagine how many people listening, work out fasted and they don't even know what it's like to feel even better when they're training fueled up. That is so many people because they think that, okay, if I'm training fasted, because I didn't take any calories in, I'm gonna, essentially burn more calories because I didn't take any in, right? The net calorie effect. Well, what if you trained harder because you were fueled? Right. And that's what studies show us, right, is that when we fuel before exercise, especially for somebody that's going to go in the weight room with intention or the trail or the road or the pool with intention and actually train your hardest, it's going to make a difference if you're fueled up. If you're going to go in there and just go through the motions, well, then, yeah, you can probably get through that fasted. No problem. But if you're trying to get an edge and get better and make gains, right, training fueled is the way to go. And you will train harder and your body will recover better.
With what we're doing, with what I do, I have to push the envelope on every single workout. Unless it's a designed like, hey, you're just walking today or hey, you're just big chilling today. But every workout, it's for a reason. And I need to be able to push the envelope in that realm. And I'm not here just to go through the motions. I'm here to make myself better. I'm here to sharpen my axe so that I can cut down that damn tree. The Norseman, the world's toughest triathlon. That's what we're here for. And it really did show, like just having that one day where I was not fueled. It's like, I am not showing up my best. And I know that I have to make an adjustment.
It's good. Those shortcomings are really good to experience now when we're just getting into this, right? Because already it's starting to sink in. Okay, like training fueled is the only way to train. Like that's now even more important than it was before. One thing I want to just kind of cover briefly before we dive deeper in, I know we want to do a quick maybe estimation for your carbs, protein, fat, see what calories that comes out to, is that you've already went through that introductory phase 1 material. So in that, I have that performance nutrition hierarchy. Okay. The way we're going to go about this coaching, right, is we're going to start at the base. We're going to make sure all of that's dialed in. Okay. Then we'll move up to tier 2 and then tier 1, right? And we're already touching on all of it, at least a little bit. We're kind of sprinkling it in, but the main focus really needs to be this foundation. Just a sprinkle. Just a sprinkle. So the foundation of this performance nutrition hierarchy, right, is A, making sure we're eating enough, which means not eating too much and not eating too little. Okay. And that's kind of what we've been talking about this whole call. So we're still in this step. This is what we're trying to really determine. Like, let's tease out these maintenance calories so we can get a really good grip on that. Okay. Next one is hydration, which you already alluded to. We're probably going to talk about a little bit more next time. Something that I'm going to want to do with you is sweat testing. Okay. But that can come down the road. We don't need to do that, in the next week or two, but we'll definitely try to get some sweat testing in, especially so we can come up with a really detailed nutrition plan come game day for the Norseman. And then lastly in the foundation is your macro splits. And we're going to talk about that too as we determine your calories. Once we feel really good that you're eating enough, that your hydration is dialed in, that your macro splits are appropriate for your training, we move up to tier 2, right? We'll really dial in on micronutrients. I know I tease you on Instagram occasionally about, oh, where's the color? Where's the color? I'll tease you more, right, when we get into micronutrients, because again, I want you to get educated on the topic, because when you understand micronutrients, it will naturally cause you to gravitate towards those more colorful foods, because you'll know the importance of, I need these vitamins and minerals, and those foods provide it. Okay, my plates are going to start to look more colorful. And in addition to micronutrients, fiber is right up there with that, right? Like, you'll gravitate towards some of these higher fiber foods. And then finally, once we get all of that dialed in, and that is good, the first two, tiers of the pyramid are ironed out and done good and consistently. Then we get into the sexy stuff. We talk strategic supplementation, we talk nutrient timing, and we really hammer those down. And that's when we develop your nutrition plan for the Norseman. So all that being said, just wanted the listeners to, again, kind of have that pyramid in their mind. Let's go ahead and do some calorie counting. So what did you put as your splits for grams per kilo for carbs? What did you end up trying number-wise?
Number-wise, well, all right, so I use...
or you can give me the total grams. Yeah, just tell me what you did. Tell me what you did.
Yeah, because, we're talking about how, like, we just want to get a base. We want to get consistent, right?
Yep.
And let me pull up my daily report here. So are we going for 3 days, or how are we doing this?
No. Before we even go on what you consumed, I wanted to know what you used for your targets.
Okay. So when I did the
What was your
Mifflin,
goal carbohydrate?
I just wanted to stay within the range. I was trying to get to that 660 number. But like, dude, that's tough. I'm definitely like, I'm going to have to definitely change a few things and to get more ideas to get to that number eventually.
And remind me really quick, your body weight today was 206, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just do a quick little math.
Yep.
Okay. And that was, I'm trying to determine, did we put you at, was that 7 grams per kilo or 8 grams?
That was 6.
6
grams per kilo.
So at 6 grams per kilo, I actually have you at 560 grams of carbs.
Okay. I don't remember why I wrote down 660.
And as a new dad, right, I often misspeak and have lapses in my mental clarity because I am sleep deprived on a daily basis. But that's neither here nor there.
Hey, let's just go check the tape.
Exactly. We've got recordings. So I'm confident here because I'm looking at it. I did your current kilograms times 6. Okay. So that's going to be 561.8. We can round up to 562, and then we can round back down to 560. We can even round down to 550 to make it really clean, right, in intervals of 50. So let's say somewhere around 550 grams of carbohydrates would be that perfect intermediate hybrid total daily carbohydrate number. So that's like 100 less than what you were thinking you had to hit. So now I'll be curious to know what you got.
Yep. Okay. Let's see here. I have been hitting. Consume. This is still a new app to me, so I'm trying to.
It's all good.
Figure it out.
Everything's learning, baby.
So Chronometer uses net carbs. Does it tease out regular consumed 351?
And that's not net. That's total.
I'm looking here. Net carbs. Yeah, see, it uses net carbs. I don't like that. because our net carbs it's minus fiber, correct? If I'm remembering correctly.
Exactly. And when we're doing daily total carbs, it is gross. It's not net, right? We're just total carbohydrates.
Yep.
There is no, I mean, there could be. It's actually something, maybe I'll look into that. I've never come across a recommendation that has, net carbs for a daily total for an athlete.
Yeah, it has net carbs built in here. So,
okay. Well, no need to worry about it now. Okay. Maybe
Yep.
we'll do some research on the side of how can I view what my gross total carbs is without the reduction of fiber or the subtraction of fiber grams. Okay. So nonetheless, I'm going to say 560. What was your protein target? Are you sticking with 1 gram per pound? Is that your target?
That's my normal target. Yes, I have been hitting about 215.
Okay.
I hit 2 days, and then I hit 252 on one day.
Yeah. So this is a really good point.
Out of the last 3 days. So I'm just going the last 3 days. Yep.
As an animal, an absolute animal, you over consuming protein is not a surprise, right? And you didn't get the way you are now, meaning an absolute beast, because you under consumed protein, right? But I think your body is now at a point, muscular wise, where we're less concerned with building more mass. And now we're trying to get that muscle tissue as efficient as possible because you're in an endurance world now, right? That extra muscle mass isn't going to do much for you in the endurance game, right? So we can take those, like, even the 215, right? Let's say, so ideally, right, and I'll just put this out there. For an endurance athlete, I'd want your protein even lower, like probably 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilo. That's going to be still less than 1 gram per pound because we need room calorically for carbohydrate, right, as we train endurance. And we'll get there again more so as we experiment.
That's definitely where I was struggling because I was seeing the calories go up and I'm like, how am I supposed to get to this number of carbohydrates? Well, my calories are up. I'm not eating, I'm eating less protein now than when I was, cutting the last time. I was training more of a bodybuilding style cut, more of a hybrid endurance, or not even hybrid endurance, just hybrid bodybuilding style cut. So It was a lot more traditional. But my protein intake was at like 284 to 300, right? So I was just looking at these calories. I'm like, how am I going to get my calories down but keep this carbohydrates? So it's just cutting the protein out and probably cutting the fats out a little bit. I know fats are we haven't even touched on that yet, so we're getting there.
Yeah, so we'll get there. But what's nice about, let's say we're doing a calorie swap, carbs and protein, right? Well, they're both calorically essentially the same per gram, right? It's 4 calories per gram for protein and 4 calories per gram for carbs. So if we, on the day you hit 250 protein, my gosh, that's 50 grams, which is 200 calories that we could have allocated towards carbohydrate, right? And it would have been calorically exactly the same. It's just a shift in the splits, right? Because again, we're trying to provide your body more fuel, right? That extra protein, because our bodies don't use protein ideally as fuel, right? We want to give it a fuel source it likes. Like the analogy would be like protein for fuel is like putting in 87 into a race car, right?
Oh,
you really want that performance fuel, right? At the very least, premium, okay? That's going to be carbohydrates, is what your body's preferring to burn. It can still burn 87, but, not ideal. It takes a little bit more work. Doesn't burn as clean. So we want to take those calories and really allocate them where they need to be pushing your body for the energy production so that you can push. Because at your size, right, you want to maintain your muscle mass, but again, we're not really worried about building new tissue, right? Honestly, even if you leaned out a little bit, right, it could be advantageous to the endurance world. And again, for people listening, it really depends what your long-term goals are, right? Like if you're trying to be competitive in the endurance world and win and podium every single time, typically a leaner physique is going to be advantageous in that ultra endurance scene, right? If you're doing this because you enjoy the sport and you want to push yourself and you don't really care about winning first place, but you're testing yourself, you're competing against yourself, absolutely keep as much muscle as you want, right? And then our goal is just to finish. So for people listening, it all depends what that overall goal is. For you, you'll have to make that determination. Do I want to keep my current physique and compete mainly against myself? Am I trying to win first place? And those two things will determine a little bit the macro splits we put you into. Does that make sense?
Absolutely does. And I do want to let you know that I took an InBody today, and I know InBody has a bunch of different peaks or perks and benefits, right? It's data point, right?
Yep.
And so, but I think my lean body mass or my lean skeletal muscle mass was like 106.7.
Okay. In pounds?
If I remember correctly, I can get you a picture of that for sure.
Yeah. Send that over.
Yep. So I was just, and then my fat was around, I think 23 point something. So,
Okay. And what was that on a percentage point?
if you want to, let me pause. I can go get the sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here.
Now, just
not pause. You can talk.
Yeah, just keep her rolling. All right, listeners, now I have a captive audience. So what do we want to talk about? So one thing that we can get from this InBody, and something that I think Sully was referring to, is that when we look at body composition measurements, there's a couple different ways to go about it, right? We can go, physical measurements, something like measuring tapes, like waist circumference. We can do skin fold measurements with calipers. Okay, InBody uses bioelectric impedance. Okay, which is basically sending electricity through your body and getting an estimate of your body fat and muscle mass. We've got the bod pod using air displacement. And then the gold standard, which would be a DEXA scan, which uses dual X-ray technology. That can tell you your bone density, your lean mass, as well as your body fat percentage. And that is the most accurate way to do that. InBodies are great because they're cheaper. They're more readily available, right? It's just a small machine that you can set up even in your home, where a DEXA scan is this giant machine that uses X-ray technology, typically more expensive. The margin of error in the InBody is bigger. However, it still isn't terrible. It's something that, we can use to at least start to establish a baseline. And that's exactly what Sully was referring to there. So even though the margin of error is slightly higher with the InBody, it's still not useless data. It's still stuff that we can use. So now that he's back, let's see what we got. Body fat percentage.
Beautiful. All right. So body fat percentage, we got 10.3.
Perfect. Okay.
And then that body fat mass was 21.3, and skeletal muscle mass was 106.9.
Okay. Pounds.
Yes.
Okay. So really quick, let me just do something.
And I definitely wanted to tell people, I'm looking at my body composition history, right? And so
give me 1 second, Sully. Keep talking.
Yep.
I'm gonna grab my my calculator, my handy dandy.
Hey, remember when they said that we wouldn't have calculators all the time?
Yeah, people that said we'll never use math, they're lying.
I just wanted to point out to Erik, and the reason that I brought all this up is because he was talking about even losing a little bit of lean body mass. And I wanted people to understand that, like, even on this sheet right here, it shows my history. I've been down to 104. I've been down to 102 lean body mass, but also my body fat percentage has gone down, or, my weight has gone down. So just because sometimes you do lose a little bit of lean body mass, in an ideal world, you want to keep that as high as possible. It's okay. That's part of the peaks and valleys. That's part of losing weight. That's part of losing fat. Even is just like it goes up and it goes down. As long as you don't have a dramatic dip to where like, oh, what's going on there? Or a dramatic spike to where like, what are you using? That was really dramatic, really fast. What are you doing, big fella? To where like your coach starts asking questions, because I believe that you should communicate if you're using something outside of the normal realm and you have a massive spike, because that can come with a bunch of other health issues. But like right now, like I stay between 104. I've peaked at 109, and right now I'm at 106.9. So it does go up and down. The thing is consistency and avoiding those major dips.
Absolutely. So while you were chatting there, Sully, I did a couple calculations. Okay. I did the Cunningham equation using the lean body mass that you just gave me from the InBody. and I'm going to use an activity factor of 1.9 for heavy active, okay? So there's two Cunningham equations. There is an older one, 1980 version and a 1991 version. It's really hard to tell which one's better. I typically use both, and I can use that then as a range, right? So I started with the 1991 equation, and I got your RMR, or your basal metabolic rate, estimated at 1,419. Okay, so about 1,420. Okay, I then multiplied that by 1.9 for your heavy activity. Okay, that gets us a daily total calories around 2697. Okay, and now I use the more outdated version, which is the 1980 version. And that sometimes is more accurate than the 1991 version, right? So that's why I like using both. It kind of gives us a range to play with. That gave me 1569 as your RMR.
So a little bit
much
higher.
higher. Yep. Now I multiply that by 1.9, and I've got your calorie range at 2981. So really close to 3,000 on the dot. So when I was just saying, hey, Sully, just by looking at you and knowing your activity, I think you might be around 3,000. It was a pretty good guess.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is, and just to pause, like if you really wanted to do it, you use both of them, you add it together, you divide it by 2, there you go, you split the difference.
Yeah, and use the one that's more advantageous to you. Like for example, right, if you were trying to cut and taper, just use the lower one to start.
Yeah, but what's crazy is that, you know, when I said that I went back and I did the the middle activity factor, right?
Yep.
And this is going to be nuts. This one came out to my calorie output should be 2,923. And then to cut, I came up with 2,623. So it actually hits both of those numbers that you just spit out with the Cunningham equation. So
there we go, right? Like, so there is something to all of this.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. As soon as you said both those numbers, I was like, wait a minute, that's literally what I came up with using the middle tier.
Okay, so 1 second. And this is a good point, right? Like, so using that middle tier again, like your body's so well trained, like to you, that day in and day out, like, and that's why if you go through my course, right, you've noticed that we have the traditional activity factors, which are the ones I just talked about on the podcast. But then there's the ones that I use with clients, and that's rating your day in total of rate of perceived effort. Like if you feel like your RPE for the day was like a moderate, like a 0.55 or whatever, well then moderate's probably a good one to use by your RMR, because really, even if you read the fine print for the activity factor, it does say like, okay, well, if you're sedentary, it means you don't exercise and you work a desk job. And then like at the bottom, the 1.9 is like, you work out heavy and you have an active job, but it's so subjective and it's so generic that I think, you just saying like, yep, today I worked out twice, but I sat around the rest of the time for the most part. And like, I don't feel smoked. Like I feel pretty good. It was like a very moderate day. Well, then multiplying that is probably more accurate than just going by the table. It says, well, I have to use 1.9 because I worked out twice today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is a great reminder that like this stuff is different for everybody. Just like fitness, your body is going to react to stimulus in a different way. Nutrition, your body is going to react to the proteins, fats, and carbs and the calories that you consume in a different way than mine. I have been an athlete doing 2-a-days for 5 years for the most part. So very rarely do I only do one workout. Even if it's just an extended walk in the morning, I'm still getting that movement in. So my body is going to react much different, and my level of perceived exertion is much different than a lot of people that are listening to this. So I think we're in a good spot, and it kind of puts my mind at ease of like, hey, this is actually where we should be around.
Absolutely. And I am also doing some calculations now based on weight-based recs, and the results are going to shock you because the calorie output is much higher than using the Cunningham equation. Again, this is because you're a big guy with a lot of muscle, and this makes numbers sometimes. Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Everybody likes to be called a big guy. Big guy.
Yeah, of course. I know somebody. I was at a buddy's, I went down for a suit fitting for his wedding. So we stopped by his wife or fiance was having a bridal shower. So we went to go pick up some things for them and do some heavy lifting. And the groom's mom, who knows me, said, "Oh, you're looking good. You look thin." And I was like, you don't tell a man he looks thin, okay?
Damn.
I want to know, like, hey, you're looking buff, bro. You're looking, you can say cut. You look cut.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
you look good. You look slender. You look thin. I'm like, I need to hit the gym right
Bugger.
now. I hope you got,
curls,
100-pound
do some
dumbbell
band
in
work
that
right
mini
there.
man.
Just like
Yeah,
next time
you
you're
look-
taking a nitric oxide booster before you see this woman, getting some
Seriously.
getting some push-ups in.
My body
Bloody hell.
dysmorphia kicked in so hard in that
Yeah,
moment.
everybody has it one way or another. I'm telling you, one way or another.
Okay, so here's what we got. I'm going to add it up. So if we did weight-based recommendations, okay? So let's say we're really aiming high for that target, your carb target. It'll put you at 560 grams, okay? That's going to be a lot of calories, right? 2,240. Protein, if we kept you at the 1 gram per pound, that's going to put you at 206 grams of protein, which is 824 calories. And then typically for fat, we kind of just do what's ever left over. But a basic recommendation is about 1 gram per kilo. So that'll put you at 93 grams of fat, which is
I do have a question with that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going off the 190 number for protein because we're looking to get down, or are you going off of what I currently am?
Currently am.
Okay.
Yep.
So those numbers are currently 205 or 206.
Yep, and I use just 206 for this. But again, we might
Beautiful.
give you a protein recommendation to lower that. But again, we've got a whole bunch of numbers we're playing with now. So we're gonna use the Cunningham numbers to maybe start, okay? And we can do percentages then for your carbs, protein, fat, because this is gonna be closer to what you've been eating without making any drastic changes, right? Because if I add all these calories up, which I'm gonna do as we speak.
Oh, this is scary.
Yeah, it's close to 4,000, which actually doesn't surprise me for somebody of your size exercising as hard as you do. Like that one surprised me to see. So it's 3,900 almost exactly, 3,901, right? So that's a big jump. It's about 1,000 calories more than the top number that we just determined. So we're just gonna see. We've got a whole bunch of numbers now that we can go off of. So using specific, well, you know what? Really quick. Let's lower your protein goal a little bit. Let's just do 1.8 grams per kilo. Okay. And see what that gives us. That gives us 169 grams of protein.
Oh,
and
you said 69, huh?
Look at that.
You can take the veterans out of the military, but you can't take the military out of the veterans.
Never. Okay, so that's going to now put us at 674 calories. So only like a 50 calorie reduction. So still high, right? That's still going to put you at like 3,850-ish if we did that. So what I want to do, because we have all these numbers, is what would you say you're used to eating calorically? Like prior to starting with me, what would you say your baseline caloric input was, roughly?
Depending if you had the Ben and Jerry's, multiple times a week. No, I would say it was around 3,000, 3,200.
Okay, so yeah, 3,200. So a little higher than even the Cunningham numbers. Okay.
Yep.
So, and you were able, do you think you were maintaining pretty well? Like you were maintaining your weight, maintaining the amount of muscle you had and your body fat percentage roughly? Because I know you
felt like I was getting a little bit fluffier slowly coming off. I wasn't as active. I had my plantar fascia, so like I was more on the bike. 1,000 calories on the bike is much different than running for an hour to an hour and a half. So like there was multiple factors in that for, I was kind of not on the shelf for 3 weeks, but definitely taking it more of it easy.
Yes.
But I did feel like I was getting my body fat percentage was going up. I might've been keeping my muscle. I still I feel strong. But I did feel like my body fat was going up slowly.
Okay.
It wasn't dramatic, but it definitely was slowly.
Okay. But not fast. So we can say, let's say even 3,000 is like baseline what your maintenance roughly was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would then be indicative for me to say, let's try one of the Cunningham numbers and let's just stick with the high end one for now. And if you want to stick to the range, we can, and we're just going to see how you feel training. But I think if we shot for like the 2981 target, on the upper end of your calorie range, we can mess around with some numbers there. So I'm going to use that number and I'm going to calculate. Let's take using the acceptable distribution ranges now instead of the weight-based recs. Let's do 55% total calories from carbs. Okay, and let's see what that gets us. That gets us 409-ish grams of carbs, okay, daily. So lower than 560 using the weight-based recommendation. Let's now do protein. And if the percentage-based one doesn't work out that well, we will do just the weight-based rec for protein and see where that puts us. Because if I did 206 grams divided by that number, 2981. Yeah, that's going to be about 28% total calories from protein. Sorry, sometimes I just talk to myself, even if it sounds like rambling.
No, I love it.
Okay, so technically, okay, if we kept protein where it was at 28% total calories, which is 1 gram per pound, and we did your carbs at 55%, and training for what you're training for, that's a pretty good starting point for carbs. So I won't want to dip below that 410 gram mark, okay? It only leaves 17% of calories left for fat. Well, we know that falls below 20%, which is our acceptable macronutrient distribution range, and we know that fat's super important for our hormone production, fat-soluble vitamin absorption, so on and so forth. So a bunch of things. We need fat, and we definitely don't want to fall below 20%. So now it puts us in a little bit of a bind. So knowing that we can't let fat dip below 20%, your carbs are about as low as I'd like to see them training for what you're training for. Where's the last place we can sacrifice?
Protein.
Protein, okay? So if 28% was too high and that was 1 gram per pound, let's just go ahead and try 1.8 grams per kilo again and see what percentage that gets us at. So 206 converted to kilos is 94. I'm just going to write that number up top. 94 kilos times 1.8. That's going to put us at 170 grams of protein per day, which probably sounds crazy low to you since you've been on a high protein diet for so long. Like I said, though, don't fret because your body is very efficient at using protein for lean mass preservation. Okay, that is now going to give us 680 calories divided by 2981. Okay, so now that's 23%. That's looking better. Okay, so if we're at 23% from protein and 55% from carbs, that puts us at 78% total. Now fat, we get 22% total calories to mess with. Okay, so we've got some wiggle room even, but 22% is a good starting point. 22% of your 2981 calorie target is going to be 656 calories from fat divided by 9 puts you at 73 grams of fat. Okay, so some rough numbers here. Okay, calorie target 2981. Okay, and again, this is just a starting point. We did weight-based recommendations. We did Cunningham. We're doing AMDR percentages. Okay, and we're just going to see kind of what works best for you. We're going to stick with the percentages, and we did the weight-based for the protein, which turned into a percentage. Okay, carb target is going to be 55% total calories. Okay, that puts you at 410 grams daily. Protein target, we dropped you down to 1.8 grams per kilogram, okay, to make room for those carbs while still fitting within our caloric budget. That's going to put you at that, oh gosh, I wrote it down somewhere. Did you write it down? Otherwise, I'll just go back.
170 grams.
Okay, 170 grams. There we go. Thank you very much. And then that leaves fat, which we needed to be above 20% total calories, again, just for our overall function. And that puts you at the 73 gram mark. Okay, and that's 22% total calories.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you feel about these numbers?
I actually, the carbohydrates, I'm still like wrapping my head around it just because I'm not used to being like that high on carbohydrates. But the protein number and the fat number, they don't scare me at all. The fat is kind of around where I've stayed When I've been in kind of the traditional world, it's anywhere between 65 and 85.
Sure.
The protein number, of course, is lower,
So we're
but
swapping, right? Like we talked about
yeah,
earlier,
yeah, yeah.
calories.
Yeah, because it's 4 grams per gram of protein, correct? And same with gram of carb. So we're just adding to the carbohydrates, and we're adding, taking down.
It's a 1-for-1 swap, right? Because the
Yep.
calorie associations are the same. So 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbs are interchangeable. So we're taking essentially the extra, like 35 grams of protein and now adding that back to the carbohydrate realm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
and
think
that's
that's a
simply
very
the fact
realistic number.
because I don't need to gain lean muscle. Like gaining any more lean muscle is not going to do anything for me, especially with the amount of pounding my joints are going to be taking and the endeavors that I am pursuing, and with the ultimate goal being the triathlon, right? And that's
Correct.
just kind of kicking things off. That's just getting started for what we have planned this year, but that is the A, B, and C goal of the 2026 calendar. And with that, the training that is required for a triathlon needs more carbohydrates to fuel it. It doesn't need more lean body mass.
Right, absolutely. And, as your training progresses, we might even make further adjustments, right? We may then switch to more weight-based recommendations so we can up your carbohydrates and just forget what the calorie associations are, because maybe your body then is demanding it as distances start to increase.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna have to wrap my head around that one. I'm
It's
a,
okay. We're
when you look at and this is where I have empathy for so many people when it comes to calories, because we've been trained in society, right? Like calories in, calories out, doesn't matter. Like have to be in a calorie deficit, which you do to lose weight. Like that's just known. But like we look at calories and get so intimidated by them, whether they're low, whether they're high. When you're changing them and they're like out of the ordinary, it does get intimidating. And I want people to know that like I am a very high level athlete. I do a lot of stuff at a very high level, and I'm intimidated by some of the calories in the way that we're talking about them. And that's okay. It's trusting the process, it's trusting the way that you feel, and it's trusting a professional that you have in your life that's willing to work with you and make adjustments.
Well, and the good news is, right, is we're paying attention to this so closely that let's say, we're going to do the weight-based recs and it's going to be a calorie number that is kind of intimidating. It's high. Well, if your weight starts trending up, we can simply stop and reduce your calories. And based on your exercise, your weight's going to go right back down. It's not like you're going to go from freaking 10% body fat to 30% body fat overnight because your calories were high, right? It's weight gain is a slow process, right? It takes a long time to get, to an unhealthy level of body fat, right? Just like it takes a long time for people to cut that body fat to a healthy range. None of this happens overnight. And that's the best part of nutrition is we can try these things out with very low risk, right? We're going to try these out. We're going to see how you feel. If your weight starts going up, well, no big deal. We're just going to lower your calories, adjust some numbers, and so on and so forth. That's the whole point of this is we're trying to find what works best for you. And it is going to take some time because the human body, as I've said multiple times, is unique. No two people are the same, and therefore no nutrition approaches can be the same either. Really has to be an individualized approach with all these variables taken into consideration. So yes, and then my second point is to use your point that you mentioned on either session 1 or session 2. We are not diet and exercising. We are fueling. We are fueling for performance. Okay, this isn't a diet. This is what fuel is it going to take for my body to accomplish these goals. And that's what we're teasing out right now. We're still in the base of the pyramid. We're still in the very introductory, rudimentary phases of finding out what works best for your body. So I'm glad to hear that, even though it's slightly intimidating, you're cool with it. We're gonna go forth and conquer. I think that calorie target, even for me, so like on the flip side, as a coach, right, I hear your level of activity, right, where you're doing these long sessions twice a day, that's typical. I know your body size, and I see 3,000. I'm like, oh, it does seem a little low. So we're just going to have to see. You report back to me as the coach, right? Here's how I'm feeling. I feel like I need more. I feel like I need less, so on and so forth.
And if I could ask just for a little bit of a clarification too, because so in the past when I've worked with a couple of coaches, that post-workout nutrition that I use, the post-workout stack, protein, and the really fast digesting carbohydrates.
Yep.
Do I count that within my macros?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
100%.
because you know
Everything
sometimes
you
in the
consume in a
past
day.
it because it's basically bypassing like the digestive tract because like you're using it up right away for like the anabolic window, but like because for recovery because you need that protein and you need those quick carbs, they're getting used right away, so they're not just sitting, they're getting utilized. But you do want me to count that post workout nutrition.
Everything gets utilized that you eat.
That's
The
true.
time it takes to utilization doesn't matter. All of these numbers that we're calculating are based on everything that you consume in a day. Everything has to be accounted for. Nothing enters your body for free except, let's say, indigestible fiber that not even your bacteria consume, right? Everything, those calories all count. So yeah, there's no leaving anything out. Like the Weight Watchers diet where they do counting. We'll say like, okay, vegetables or whatever are free foods, right? And that's because their caloric association is so low because of the fiber. But everything has a caloric value associated to it. So it's really important to know. Yeah, so I'm not saying you were, but if you were leaving out the pre-post workout, yeah, those absolutely count towards your daily carbohydrates. And if that's then the case, hopefully you feel better about hitting that carb target because man, those scoops of ignition, it's a lot of grams of carbohydrates if you weren't.
Oh no,
counting
I was counting them. I was counting them.
Okay,
I
good.
I just wanted to make sure, because like especially when it's coupled with protein, like that can like 2 sessions a day, 2 scoops of protein a day, like that's 40 to 50 depending on which one I use of protein. But then hey, guess what? That leaves only 120 to be able to eat. So that's where it's just like, okay, cool. So now this is where we've talked about the importance of going from supplementation to actually eating your food so that I feel satiated over the amount of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think with the caloric value we have, based on what you've traditionally been eating, that shouldn't be a problem. And then obviously there are many things we can do if, let's say, you're not feeling satiated, you're feeling hungry more frequently. Could be an indication that we need to fuel more. Could be an indication that the composition of the meal is a little off. Maybe we need to tweak by adding fiber, something like that to help you feel full longer. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, I want you to play around with these numbers. I want you to keep me posted with during training how you're feeling. And we're going to report back next week and we'll hash everything out. And if we need to start making some tweaks, then we'll start making some tweaks.
I can't wait. And don't worry, I'll keep on tagging you. I'm adding color to all my meals. Even if it's just a little bit of salsa, I'm doing my best to add some color. I promise you. So I had my friend Michael. He loves listening to the podcast too. He loves what we're doing, and he's a good dude. He even tagged me today. He's like, because Sully needs to be adding color to his plate. I'm just like, damn it, called out already.
Dang, man. Yeah, the more of you listening, if you can just make sure Sully gets his colors in, it's going to be helpful for all of us.
Hey, we're doing it. We're doing it. Small tweaks, winning every day. As we wrap up, do you want to tell the folks where to find you?
Yeah. So as always, I think I'm most responsive probably through social media on Instagram if you just need to get in touch with me quickly. Otherwise, you can find me at gruntgrubrd.com. That RD is for registered dietitian. Ha ha ha. So gruntgrubrd.com is where you can find my website, give you a brief breakdown of my coaching. But yeah, if you need to see what I'm up to and want to get in touch with me quickly, ask some questions. Instagram, you can find me at gruntgrub with the logo, which is an apple frag grenade. And I'm on there daily, so I'll get back to you as quick as possible.
Once a Marine, always a Marine, baby.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody can find me, Sully Luepke, on all major platforms, but I'm more active on Instagram. So SULLYLUEPKE, that's where to find me. And let's chat. Let's have some fun. And thank you for following along on this journey. It's going to be epic. So thanks
Absolutely.
Again.
Session 3. That's a wrap. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye-bye.